At Sephora, we've got what you want because you're obsessed with your skin and we're obsessed with what it needs. Sephora has the best products to help you get beautiful, glowing, radiant skin. With an extensive, inclusive range of results-driven formulas and in-store beauty advisors to help you find exactly which are right for you, the best skincare is only at Sephora. Sephora, for all your skincare.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Welcome to Farm Here Daily, a Field Forward podcast. I'm David Geiger, your host, and I've been on Iowa TV and radio for the last decade. Excited to join you on this new podcast, Farm Here Daily. Today on the program, we're going to chat about Iowa weather with state climatologist Justin Glisan. Then we'll return to take a look at the spring conference of the U.S. Meat Export Federation with its Mexico director. I had a lot of fun chatting about some of the marketing plans over there for our U.S. products. Please be sure to like and follow the podcast as well as our social media at Field Forward Pod. We would love to have you join our community, making sure folks in Iowa are informed about what's going on that affects our Iowa farmers. This is Farm Here Daily. And joining us on Farm Here Daily, we have our state climatologist for Iowa, Justin Glisan, Dr. Justin Glisan, joining us. Justin, thank you so much as usual for taking the time to join us. I always love chatting with you about what's been going on around the state, and we've seen a little bit rain the last couple of days, but it was pretty dry before that. What's kind of been the highlights of the last couple weeks?
Yeah, great to be back with you, David. So thinking across the state for May, the first half has really been dry, and May is the second wettest month climatologically for the state. So when you're looking at that middle third of the state, north to south, in the top five driest through the 18th, then we finally see an appreciable pattern shift in which we saw over the last 2 days widespread rainfalls, heavy rainfalls in some portions of the state. And you're seeing locations anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of rainfall over 2 days. So some locations are getting a month's worth of rainfall over 2 days. Others are chipping away at those precipitation deficits that we've kind of stacked up in May. Overall, if you look at March, April, May, meteorological spring, running deficits, we did have a wet period around April 21st through the end of the month. But overall, if you look at drought conditions, we're actually at about 7% moderate drought coverage, which is particularly low given 4 years of drought over the last, 2020 through 2024. So we need more moisture as vegetative demand increases, but these last 2 days have been much needed across much of the state.
What is the typical inches that you'll get rain-wise for the month of May?
So statewide, it's about 5 inches. The actual number is 4.84 inches. So we should be seeing, depending on where you are across the state, anywhere from an inch to an inch and a half per week to really get that climatological average for the month. Otherwise, if you're below that in the wettest months of the year, that's where you start to see precipitation deficits stack up faster, and that's where you can backslide into abnormal dryness and drought conditions.
I guess the question then is, how are our soil moistures faring? We just had that recent crop report, and it didn't seem to be doing super well, but that was before the rain hit.
Yeah, so if you looked from last week to this week and the week prior to last week, we've seen an increase in that short to very short top and subsoil moisture, but not significant. We're still in that adequate to surplus, and given the rains that we saw over the last 2 days, the next NASS report, I think, will give us a good indication that we've replenished at least some of that subsoil moisture and definitely the topsoil moisture, especially when you're talking about rain amounts in the 2 to 5 inch range. With soils being drier than normal for this time of year prior to the rainfall event, they're able to soak up a lot of that rainfall. You're not getting a lot of runoff into the streams. So that's also a good thing to see, that you had capacity in those profiles, and this was more gentle type rainfall. Of course, you had some downpours here and there and higher intensity rain rates, but overall, good infiltration over 2 days of rain.
Looking ahead, then, we are reaching a point where a good chunk of our crops are planted. We have a decent amount of emergence, and that's only going to keep getting more and more growing and growing. What type of rainfall, what type of precipitation, what type of heat can we expect for our farmers across the state?
So at least in the near term, 6 to 10 days, we're seeing a cooler than average signal. So colder temperatures, not anything that will impact emergence in plant growth. And in fact, if you look at the 8 to 14 day, a slightly lean towards drier conditions and a shift from cooler temperatures near normal to then getting into slightly elevated warmer temperatures as we get into June. So you decouple all of that and you look at what the broad signal across the state is and across the upper Midwest. Cooler temperatures, at least in the short term, but we're not seeing an elevated wetness signal right now. So that's what we would like to see, particularly late May into early June, the wettest part of the year. So we'll have to really look at those outlooks as we keep going day to day to see if the soil moisture increases that we've seen over the last 2 days impact the climatological outlooks that the Climate Prediction Center puts out.
Another future, or I guess current even, weather-related phenomenon we have is the La Nina, El Nino, Enso neutral weather events that tend to go on. It's been a while since I've checked in. How is that shaping up?
Yep, so we're currently in neutral conditions after a weak La Nina winter. So again, La Nina is the cold phase, El Nino is the warm phase. So a high correlation between the phase of El Nino or La Nina in the winter time, and then as we transition into the growing season, into the warmest time of the year, a very low correlation to the phase, whether it's El Nino or La Nina. In the neutral phase, that means we're right in between, and sea surface temperatures in the equatorial Pacific are near normal, so the atmosphere doesn't respond. It doesn't couple to the oceanic behavior. So then we basically fall back on trends and recent trends in climatology to kind of give us a better idea of guidance moving on through the next few months, particularly as we get into summertime, which is convectively driven. Thunderstorms give us a majority of our rainfall, which work on a much smaller scale, and hence these larger scale climate patterns don't really have an impact on the mesoscale or thunderstorms that give us rainfall through the summer.
Absolutely. It's good to catch up on that, as well as what's going on around the state. Anything you're looking forward to that you think would be a good point for our farmers to be watching for weather-wise as we head into the summer this year?
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how much this rainfall will push the crop on, especially how dry we've been recently. We've had some crusting issues, some emergence issues, which hopefully this rainfall is corrected. But with these outlooks getting into June, leaning warmer and potentially slightly drier, and with those two signals, the potential for drought to intensify and expand. Now we're only at 7%, as I mentioned, but if you go back 4 or 5 years, many stations across the state have missed out on at least 1 year's worth of precipitation. So with those longer term hydrological deficits, we could backslide into drought pretty fast if we stay warm and dry. So what I'm getting at here is for farmers and producers to send in the observations that they see on their farms so we can do a better job of producing a recommendation for the federal author each week for the U.S. Drought Monitor, given that federal and state programs, crop indemnity insurance, all those things that help our farmers and producers through extreme events, whether they're wet or dry. Make sure that recommendation is as robust as possible.
Our Iowa state climatologist, Dr. Justin Glisan, joining us on Farm Here Daily. Thanks so much, as usual, Justin, for your time and analysis of the weather around the state.
Thanks, David.
You are listening to Farm Here Daily, a Field Forward podcast, and we're going to go check out some export news in just a bit, but let's take a look at what went on in the marketplace for the Tuesday market close. There's green on the board, it appears. July corn up 7 cents, $4.54.5. September rising 7 cents at $4.35 1/4. Soybeans in July 2 1/4 cents higher at $10.53, with August up 2 1/2 at $10.50 1/4. Soybean meal in July up $1.50 a ton at $292.60. July wheat 17 cents more at $5.46. September 16 3/4 higher at $5.59 3/4. In livestock market close for Tuesday, a bit more mixed there. June live cattle up 20 cents a hundredweight at $213.17, with August down 7 cents at $207.85 a hundredweight. Feeder cattle in May 32 cents stronger at $296 even, with August rising 2 cents at $297.50. Lean hogs in June 77 cents a hundredweight more at $100.02 a hundredweight, with July down 2 cents at $103.55 a hundredweight. That is the Tuesday market close. You are listening to Farm Here Daily. And joining us on Farm Here Daily from their spring conference, the U.S. Meat Export Federation, I have the Director of Mexico, Central America, and Dominican Republic, Gerardo Rodriguez. Gerardo, thank you so much for joining us today on the program, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the conference this year.
Hola. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here, and we're very excited to be in this conference and being able to talk and discuss about all the different update situation that we're doing with pork coming from the United States. Quite a bit of this product is coming from Iowa, so we're really excited to get the opportunity to talk and discuss about all the different trends and all the different opportunities that we're seeing in the market right now.
I think that's the perfect segue into a first question, and that is, how are we marketing pork specifically in Mexico? I know you work with Central America and the Dominican Republic as well, but our neighbor to the south and one of the largest ag export destinations that we have, what are some of the products and ways that you're marketing those products there?
Well, before I get to that point, David, I would like to give a little bit of context on this question, because years ago, pork was perceived just as an ingredient to do further processed products, sausage, hams, and so on. The commodity business is there and it will continue being there, but we're trying to move a little bit aside just to the commodity. We don't want just to be a price-driven decision that this product is more valuable than that. So we're working on developing different products, different segments, different channels, different regions. How can we give more value to all the different cuts and variety meats? And that is precisely what we're doing. So we are very committed in doing something that we call the Marketing 360. And we are trying to develop all different scoops and options for the consumer, make it easier, make it convenient, show them all the different benefits of buying U.S. pork for their families and for their business as well, when it's a strategy for business-to-business activities that we're doing as well. So we are working all the country, from all the way from Tijuana in the northern part of Baja California, all the way to Cancun, for example. So based on the region, based on the target that we're working on, it's a different tactics that we have in place.
What's a tactic that stands specifically out to you that you found really interesting?
Oh, wow. You're going to put me on the spot on this one.
That's what I try to do sometimes. Hopefully not in a bad way.
No. You know, I would like to explain us so many of the different things. But let me tell you something. One of the things that we have seen, people are always looking for convenience, right? So convenience is, when we consider convenience, we can consider, for example, exploring new channels as the convenience stores, just to give you an example. We are working with companies that we are developing products that are being sold in the convenience stores, because a couple of years ago, we hardly can see any protein at the convenience stores. I mean, honestly, at the best case scenario, you can only see like a sandwich with just a tiny little slice of ham in the middle of two big pieces of bread. Nowadays, the consumer is looking for more protein at the convenience store. So that is precisely what we're doing. And we are developing not only one, not two, but at this moment, we have 3 different SKUs or 3 different products that are being sold in the convenience stores that basically last year they were not able to be sold in this channel. So this is just as an example of one of the channels that we are working on, just on the concept of convenience. Now, developing on these other channels, we're working with the airline companies. And this is an interesting story because we just launched a product that is kind of an instant soup in a mix of gastronomies between the ramen there is more kind of an Asian dish. We put them pork jowl, and we make it chicharron. We call it chicharron. So this product that is a mix between a ramen and a chicharron made of pork jowl, we call chicha ramen. And this instant soup is being provided or being given in the airline companies flying domestic in Mexico. So, this is another example when we talk about convenience and how can we develop new channels. But here is another example. We are working also, domestic or Mexican wine is very trendy. So we're working with different wineries or different, these restaurants that are in the wineries, and we develop pork dishes that they do the pairing with the Mexican wines. So we are stepping up pork protein as being the center of the plate in a higher end type of restaurant. So is convenience? Yes. Is affordable? Yes. Is variety in the way you can eat it? But at the same time, it has a lot of attributes, this product, that it can be very sexy and very high-ended as well when you do this kind of pairing.
I appreciate you bringing up that high-ended product, because I was thinking as you were talking that I've really seen, and we know Mexican food in the United States. It's very common. You can find it in virtually every location across the U.S., regardless of how authentic it may be or may not be. But we understand that Mexican food is very tasty. But what I've really noticed over the last few years is, especially on our cooking shows and our TV shows, you'll have many people like presenting Mexican cuisine as more of a high-end, elegant dish. You have their fresh pressed tortillas, you have their moles, the delicious aspects of Mexican cuisine. And is that something you guys are working with to help promote our American beef and pork products in Mexico on that higher level?
Yes, definitely working in this, for example, in this pairing that we're doing with the Mexican wines is one of the strategies. Another one is tourism. Just to give you an example, the tourism has been growing year over year. This year, we closed 2024 with a growth in a basically 8%, in an 8% growth compared to the previous year. And we have over 45 million people of international tourism. And that means, just think about this, David. Every day we have 125,000 tourists every day coming to Mexico. Wow. To the different destinations, right? So we need to be aware about that, how demanding in the requirements of these international tourists they have regarding gastronomy. So we need to step it up on the type of quality, on the products and the offer that we provide them, right? This is without counting the domestic tourism. This is just international tourism. So working in places like Cancun, for example, working in places like Los Cabos, working in places like Puerto Vallarta, that we have plenty of international tourism. It's make us very mandatory for us to stand up, the offer that we have for them, right? So that is precisely what we want. How can we make it a better option for the international tourism? And this is just the tourism. I mean, we will also have the retail sector, the meat boutiques. We have so many other channels. But just to give you an example about the growth that we have seen and the commitment that we have.
Gerardo, there have been some trade barrier issues going on. How has that affected the process of marketing and promoting U.S. meat exports?
At the end of the day, David, we just cannot forget we have been partners for so long. Yes, we might see some challenges in the long term, in the medium and in the long term, maybe some in the short term as well. But at the end of the day, we cannot forget that we have been partners for so long. Mm-hmm. Before the free trade agreements, we have been partners. So, I mean, there is a lot of dependency among Mexico and the United States. Let me give you an example here. The international flights getting out of the United States, 25% of the international flights, they are going to Mexico. 1 out of 4 flights, they go to Mexico. 1 out of 4. I mean, they have 184 countries, and 1 out of 4, they go to Mexico. So that is we depend among each other. We just cannot be fighting in this war, trade war that nobody wins, right? So I know that Mexico at this moment, we haven't been affected yet with a certain percentage of tariff as other countries around the world. But that doesn't mean that Mexico is winning. We are just playing where we are able to play in this commercial partnership that we have, but nobody wins. In this, nobody wins. We are just trying to keep improving. And in the case of what we do here of promoting U.S. pork in Mexico, we will, and this will not stop promoting the product. And not only Mexico is very well known as a pork ham market, we are moving and expanding also the primal cuts. We are working a lot on the loin and a lot of variety meats, because maybe if there is any other country around the world that is not able to be buying pork variety meats at this moment because of the situation that we're dealing, Mexico always will raise a hand and say, hey, if there is any opportunity of having new products that we can offer to the consumers, let's develop some options. And just to give you an example here, on the pork variety meats, we are developing a strategy working for the cantinas and for the bars. How can we do tostadas? How can we do tacos? How can we do sandwiches using pork variety meats? And how can we make it convenient for them? How can we offer them these new options of, and listen, I'm going to give you an exclusive news here. Here is the thing. We want to make it something interesting for the consumers in this new sector, in this new channel. We're going to be developing dishes in the cone shape, so you can make it...
The cone shape?
Yeah, in a cone shape. So everything like a wrap. Let's say you put like a wrap of using variety meats, or let's say like a pita bread, anything that it has to be on a cone shape. And we put it in the like a family style, right?
Right.
And then these all different kind of products, all different kind of variety meats, or it can be also some cuts. And then we are going to call it cone, right? This is a cone. So it's iconic dishes.
Iconic dishes. I love it.
So we're going to be doing a lot of different options for the consumer. So this kind of strategies is something, how can we reach more people? So right. Trade issues always going to be something going on, but we need to focus on the strategies for the long term. We need to be proactive, and something very interesting. What is going to be our legacy for the next generation of buyers? Right, that is something we're also working on, and we have also something in place working with the restaurants in Mexico, something that we call Kids Delight, and we are changing the kids menu at the restaurants. And, there's always going to be nuggets and there's going to be hot dogs and hamburgers. Yeah, but we want to move forward from that. We want to have a different offer for the kids. So we can make it a little bit, I don't know if I can say it's sophisticated, but just more educated in the different alternatives that we have them as an option to offer for them. Because those kids that in 10 years are going to be going to the retail stores, they are going to make the decision of buying the product. And this is not going to be only on price. It's going to be on the quality of the product.
Absolutely. Gerardo Rodriguez, the director for Mexico, Central America, and Dominican Republic for the U.S. Meat Export Federation, talking about the future of meat exports to Mexico and the surrounding areas at the spring conference for USMEF. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, Gerardo.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, we appreciate having you on Farm Here Daily, a field forward podcast. Again, in order to continue producing this type of local Iowa content, we would love to have you join our community, so please follow the podcast as well as our social media channels at Field Forward Pod. Additionally, you can find me on social media at Geiger Reports, as well as WHO TV Channel 13 every weekday in their morning and noon hour programs. Again, I am your host, David Geiger, and I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody.